What is it that creates human excellence? Is it the mind? Is it the body? Or the soul? What if they aren't different things, but all part of the same?
He's been a sportsman, a successful coach, a sports scientist, EQ consultant, a motivational speaker, a monk, an author, and an entrepreneur. He's always looking for the edge he gives to the people he coaches: Olympians, World Cup cricket teams, top-seeded athletes in tennis, track and field. He coaches world-class athletes to be aggressive enough to win and yet compassionate enough to serve. He lived in a monastery as a monk who owned nothing and then built $1 million company. He may seem like a bundle of contradictions, but Shayamal doesn't live on the extremes. He pursues balance. This is his amazing journey.
Sports science is the science of performance. We look at all the variables that could give an athlete a competitive advantage in a high-performing environment. If you look at the 100-meter finals in Rio, if I ask who won the gold medal, you tell me Usain Bolt. If I ask you who came out second, there's a very, very good chance that you wouldn't know. The difference between the person who came out first and the person who came out fourth was 2/100ths of a second. If you blink your eye, it takes 3/100ths of a second. So in the blink of an eye, 4 people went past the finish line, of which the world only knows 1. What we are trying to do is we're trying to use every scientific possible intervention to close the gap between 1 and 2. I was born in South Africa, in a tiny little town called Tongaat. At about 15, 16, when I started playing competitive cricket, I played in the state under-19 team, national under-19 team. That's when the doors opened and I had to start competing against predominantly white cricket playing schools. That was when I realized that, okay, there's something else happening here. The apartheid was an institutionalized segregation against all people of color in the country, which limited you in terms of educational opportunities, work opportunities, opportunities to even enjoy recreational facilities such as parks and beaches. This entire situation that I'm describing is probably running from about 88 till about 94. Post 1994, the quota system came in where they said, okay, now 1 or 2 people of color could play in our national team. So we tried to get a unified team, but it was never really unified because irrespective of how good you are, only 1 person of color could play in that team. So it was really never a meritocracy in some shape and form. A white guy had to just do this much, and a black person had to do 50% more than everyone else to just get an opportunity. The circumstances around which I was being nurtured forced me to stop playing very prematurely. I literally had to make a decision that I'm not going to play cricket professionally anymore. And I decided to study sport full-time. I went from working with the state teams to working with the National Academy. I'd even got an amazing opportunity where I was the technical advisor to the Indian cricket team at the 2003 World Cup. John Wright, who was coaching India at the time, needed someone who knew all the local conditions, pitch conditions, grounds, what to do, knew the entire ecosystem. John said, I can't get a sanction for you to fly with us everywhere. It took me a second and I said, don't worry about it. It's okay. You get me accreditation, I will be at every single practice. And I hired a car. It was a tiny little car. I drove 12,000 kilometers And the team would fly in an hour and I would not miss the practice. I'd drive the whole day, whole night. After this whole World Cup team, I went back to my state team. I went for an interview to work with the national team full time. And the situations hadn't changed. I was seeing what had happened to me happening to other people of color. This was now post-apartheid. I was becoming very angry. The way they were thinking was indoctrinated into the fabric of their being. So I realized that there's absolutely no way I could have changed the system, and the system was going to take too long to change. So I remember clearly going one day to work and being frustrated, and at the end of the day, I drove to the ashram. I spent a night there. I spent the second consecutive night, the third consecutive night, and before I knew it, a week and a month had gone past. And life as I'd known it had changed. I was then in the ashram for about 3.5 years.
There are two things which are very important in life: the clock and the compass. The modern education system and the material society is totally focused on the clock. The spiritual societies and the spiritual knowledge helps to add the compass element, the direction.
The change into the ashram, there's absolutely nothing that could have prepared me for it. I didn't even know I had to wake up at 3:30 a.m. So I remember for the first couple of weeks, I was just sleeping at about 11, 12 p.m. and getting literally 3 hours of sleep. And I was exhausted all the time. And that was, I think, the first lesson I learned in the ashram was, discipline is something that you stick to for such a long time that it actually breaks you before it makes you. I felt a calming energy over me. I felt I was just enveloped with love. Everyone around was compassionate, they were kind, they was grateful for every single thing. It was just truly a beautiful environment. And I think it got to a stage where I was just full-time in the temple. Throughout my time, I constantly maintained my exercise regime. So I would train every single day. I tried to encourage all the devotees to eat healthier. And that was my contribution to the world of spirituality, is I can help them on how to look after their health.
Shayamal has been a very close friend. Healing is part of his DNA. He really wants to help those who are close to him lead a holistic life.
Gaurang has been a very, very close friend and someone who's really guided me.
We invited him also to run our fitness center here, which he was doing for a year, and very wonderfully.
I think one of the hardest lessons for someone to learn is the art of detachment. The more I found myself engaged in service, the easier it was to detach from the outcome. I found that I was no more angry. I found that I was calm. And then I started finding this yearning to want to do something again. I wanted to take the essence of everything I learned in the temple to make the world a better place. When change becomes a part of who you are, then it's easier to survive. I think Mumbai in particular is a city that puts you through a million tests before it rewards you.
Somebody, if you come to a city like Bombay and you don't know a single person here, it is difficult to break into. We are like an extended family to him.
So I started cold writing emails to people and messages on Facebook to people. And I'd heard of this gentleman called Heath Matthews who was working with the Indian tennis team. And he wrote back and he said, you know what, I've got an opportunity, you want to come over now? I've spoken to Mahesh about you, he would like to meet you. When can you come? And I said, I can come anytime.
I met him for the first time when I had back surgery in 2007. I needed somebody for full-time rehab. A friend of mine, he sourced him to come work with me in Bangalore, and that's where our relationship started. When
I moved to India, I think I spent a month in Bangalore because Mahesh lived there. Then we moved to Bombay because he decided to move here.
We got along well, and then I took off for the Australian Open with him, and we built a real great rapport, and we were working together. I've had some great results, And obviously the personal relationship also became pretty strong. He ended up being one of the best men at my wedding. Since then he really got along with the whole, circuit. He started working with Rohan, he started working a bit with Sania. He came with us to the Olympics.
I went as the official sports scientist and sort of mental coach to the Indian tennis team. And that was quite an eye-opening experience. I was full-time with the tennis team, so during practices I was with them, but in the night I was treating all sorts of people. So I'm now interacting with archers and shooters and swimmers. And I realized that most of these guys don't have any physios, trainers, doctors. Those that do have people, they were just appointed to them within the last 1 month before the Olympics. They don't even have a relationship with that person. Boxers had no physiotherapists. The entire Olympic contingent had no nutritionists. And I thought, this is a discrimination on a completely different level. And it was so shocking for me because we're going into an Olympic platform. But how is it a level playing field when a British athlete's £1 million is being spent on him in the development of his journey to get there? An American athlete, millions of dollars are spent on that athlete getting to the Olympics. And you have an Indian athlete that's not even given a physiotherapist, not even given good nutrition. How is it actually free and fair? And I thought something has to happen. Something needs to change. And that was when I decided to stop traveling with the athletes and take the road of entrepreneurship and set up a business in India. A business that had the sole vision of training doctors, physiotherapists, and anyone else in the non-surgical gambit and give them the expertise that was needed to work with an athlete at international level, so that 150 athletes who carry the hope of 1.4 billion people actually have a fighting chance. I've been in India from 2007, so by 2012, everyone knew who I was. I knew I wanted to create something that made impact. Setting up a business seemed like the most natural path to take.
I think an entrepreneur is just someone who has very strong passion for what he believes in and who has the courage to face the uncertainty. I think he has both. He has a lot of respect in the community as a practitioner, as a healer.
In sport, you know that every personality is different. Shayamal was extremely good about finding what makes that human being tick.
We were the first business that had physios physically work with patients manually.
The platform is a great one. I kind of became a business advisor to Heal. While he was going through his piece, we became friends.
From the beginning of 2013, the business started picking up. The business grew exponentially in the first 2 years. So we'd had 3 or 4 centers, we're doing really well. But remember, throughout this entire time, I'm expanding without any money because we didn't have any capital. We're literally going from hand to mouth every single month. Started speaking to some investors. We started with an investor, we signed some term sheets, and 7 months later, not a cent had come in. I expanded the business based on the business plan that I'd presented to them. So I'd hired more people. I had expanded the clinics, and we literally got bankrupt. We didn't have another cent in the bank, and there was no line of sight of money coming from them. I have had to beg, borrow from family and friends just to keep this business up and running. Every single day was scary. I was scared to wake up in the morning. I was scared to look at my phone. Everything felt like it was crumbling around me. There were days when I'd sit down and cry for hours. I meditated every single day. Irrespective of what's happening, I kept sending positivity and love to everybody who was attacking me. And I think spirituality helped me stay sane during a time like that. So when this happened, I had to remember what I learned at the ashram. I should be dedicated in my service, detached from the outcome.
The way Shayamal faced this situation was very inspiring. And I could see that here is a person who not only speaks about balance, but he is living it.
Finally found the courage and strength to let go of my company Heal. I'll be setting up a new healing company very, very soon.
Things didn't go the way they want, but go forward and seek other opportunities. Signifies just the amount of courage in which Shayamal has.
After that episode, he has come back with greater enthusiasm to share the message of balance and harmony with people through the media, through his teaching.
I now have a digital media business that tells true life stories that motivate and inspire people. I am starting a company that's teaching meditation to children because of the impact meditation has had in my life.
So one is around consistency, but I've essentially seen him go through some kind of shifts from an entrepreneur to actually discovering himself a lot more as an individual.
He's actually, we call him the nuclear monk, the monk who can explode anytime. Every time you come to Shayamal, he's got something new up his sleeve.
Shayamal's one of the most interesting human beings I've ever met on the planet. I'm certainly envious of his running abilities as well. So hopefully one day I can catch him on the treadmill.
Shayamal is a dear friend and somebody I have immense love and faith in. The mantra is very simple. Call Shayamal Vallabhjee.
The pursuit of balance for me is defining how we navigate our body with physical, nutritional, emotional, spiritual health. And that is what I teach people. Where to find balance, how to find balance, and the quest of finding balance more than anything else.